Hey guys, your old buddy Mr. KrawlZone here again with another review, this time the K10 Survival Collar from Wazoo. Alright, so I got the K10, not a K9. We've got here the Wazoo K10 Survival Collar. Wazoo would like you to upgrade your K9 with the K10 Survival Collar. This is a collar made for your dog, your buddy who's out on the trail with you. So if you get into trouble, you just take off his collar and you've got some survival products ready to go. So we've got the collar here. I tried it on my little rodent of a dog. This is for a K9. I have a K8. A half a dog over here. Someday I'll get a real dog, but she was kind enough to let me put it on for a while. All right, so this collar has a lot of cool stuff in it that'll help you out in a pinch if you're out in the woods and you need some help. The K10 Survival Collar gives your K9 a survival upgrade and is intended to supplement your own wearable survival gear. Wazoo builds a full line of wearable survival gear, much of which is made to order with custom colors and add-ons. Now, after opening up the collar, I noticed how stiff it was. It took a moment of working it back and forth to loosen it up enough so it would wrap around my dog's neck. I worried a bit about this because I wasn't sure how all the items were stashed inside the collar yet. I was soon to discover that it wasn't a problem because of how the survival items were packed inside the collar, but it did give me pause at first. The K10 collar comes with a handful of standard survival items that you might expect to find in a survival type kit. Of course, being a paracord collar, you get two 4+ foot strands of the survival paracord. You also get a glow light, a retroreflector, fish hooks, fishing line, a magnetized needle, snare wire, a straw, split shot weights, safety pins, and a ranger band. Without having to dig into the collar at all, you already have access to two of the survival items. First is the retroreflector, because only half of the collar is paracord weaved. The other half is just a strap with a reflective strip. So if you need a reflector, you have access to that right away. The second item is a ranger band, which is a heavy-duty, extra-wide rubber band and is used as a belt loop, but you can easily remove it if you need it while you're out on your adventure. For the rest of the items, though, usage requires digging into the collar. After reading the list of included items, I went on a treasure hunt to find all the pieces. There is always a mixture of excitement and sadness when I dig into a project like this. It is fun to see how all the things fit together, but especially in a situation like a paracord collar, once it's been opened, it's used. So, you need to decide how badly you really need that safety pin. Accessing the survival gear required removal of the paracord. Because of the weave, it does take a couple of moments. I soon discovered 3 of Wazoo's core tubes embedded into the collar, which housed the remaining survival items. Also attached to the inner strap of the collar was more of the reflector, and to either side of the reflector was a thin strip of glow-in-the-dark material, which is your glow light. If exposed to the sun or some other light source for 5 minutes or so, it will glow for hours. The glowing does diminish in brightness over time, but it does glow nonetheless. The glowing light strips were a bit fragile in their attachment and did start to peel off in places with any sort of abrasion, so I understand why they placed it under the paracord. But it would have been nice if the glow-in-the-dark strips were incorporated into the outer strap of the collar as well, so you'd have access to that without taking apart the full collar. I didn't realize at first that the straw was actually the rubberized tubes that housed the other survival items, and it was only after I mangled the first to remove the fishing line and hooks that it dawned on me. But even with this knowledge, I nearly destroyed the 2 other straw tubes trying to get out the other line, sinker, pin, snare wire, and needle because they were so tightly packed inside. Yeah, and it became a little bit harder even with my meaty fingers, but eventually I was successful. Now, 2 of the 3 core tubes within the collar come with fishing supplies, so you end up with 2 50-pound test fishing lines, one of 20 feet and one of 30 feet. Within the 2 sets, you get 4 size 8 fishing hooks, 2 split shot weights, and of course, 2 small safety pins. This means you can do double fishing or use 1 strand of fishing line for traps, sewing, or other medical needs. I did test the magnetized needle, and it did point north. Now, I've always found it difficult to get a needle to float on a cup of water. However, a little water on the tip of your finger will work wonders. By balancing the needle on top of my wet finger, the needle spun around and pointed north. Now, the last important item is the snare wire. About 2 feet in length, the wire is not only useful for setting up a snare, but if you straighten out the kinks, it can be used as a friction saw to cut through small branches. Now, overall, the collar was everything I expected from the description. In a real survival situation, it will definitely come in handy, and by having some survival tools carried along by man's best friend, you will have some sense of comfort. Now, I do have a couple of reservations about the product. It would be nice to have some sort of access to some of the more commonly useful items without having to unravel the whole collar. There are a lot of fishing supplies, so its usefulness declines if your adventure takes you in areas with less water and less abundant aquatic life. That said, it is an emergency survival tool that hopefully you never have to use. It is intended to supplement your own preparation and or give you some sort of options where no other gear is available during an emergency situation. So that's the K10 Survival Collar. The next time you're out on an adventure with your K9, make sure that you come prepared with the K10 Survival Collar, because man's best friend just may save your Wazoo.